Actually, one of the things that is maybe not commonly understood is that the CROs have actually innovated a lot. Not so much in terms of intellectual property, the way the pharmaceutical or biotechnology industry traditionally understands innovation. You know, none of us, as far as I know, have ever discovered a compound. But we have innovated when it comes to process. And you know, this happened in relatively small steps. I'll give you one breakthrough. We all measure time. You know, every one of our employees in our companies is accountable basically for every hour. And you know, as a result of that, the process planning and you know, the budgetary accountabilities are much tighter than they ever were in the pharmaceutical industry, probably to this day.
In our company, we partnered with a group of entrepreneurs to bring forward a disruptive technology, essentially, that replaces all of the cost and infrastructure in pharma when they create their high throughput screening libraries and have big buildings, you know, full of samples as they try to look for their next gem, you know, their next target. And you know, this is a technology and a group of scientists that really can keep very large libraries beyond millions of compounds up into the billions of compounds in a single test tube. And it uses DNA tagging technology in a way that helps a company go after a very you know, difficult target, and give them options and chemical structures they might not otherwise have come up with because they're only looking in their own library. And we can create custom libraries, or we have one that they can fish. And so, again, this is an example of you know, a place where a CRO goes. They have the wherewithal now to look for that kind of technology, whether they created it internally, as Joe's mentioning, or they've partnered with somebody else, but to bring it as a service offering to the industry, and you know, helps accelerate that technology availability, as opposed to, you know, it just residing in one company, and you know, the concern around intellectual property and being, you know, afraid to share that technology and losing a competitive advantage. This is a way where CROs are going to help broaden and empower the uses of new technology and the adoption of them much more quickly.
When we compete, we also innovate. You know, the way we differentiate ultimately, you know, is through innovation. You know, each one of us pushes the needle in terms of you know, the state of the art forward a little bit. We just want to be a little bit better, you know, than we were last time. And in aggregate, eventually, this is how we improve. It's not usually that we have huge breakthroughs, you know, in 1 year or in 6 months, but over time, you know, this innovation is happening, and I think it's actually accelerating. And of course, this benefits our clients without the question, whether it's costs, time, or quality.
We had one example. This was sort of in the preclinical to early clinical phase, where the client was really looking to reduce their cycle times. And they actually, for several years, have been in, I guess, a rut in terms of their ability to reduce the cycle time. Their view was they had reduced it as far as it could be reduced. And we took some of our Six Sigma resources, combined with some of their Six Sigma resources, and spent about 9 months actually analyzing this, critical chain, the whole thing, and ultimately eliminated 239 days out of the cycle time, which they correlated to $40 million per year of work. So to me, that's a meaningful, innovative, you know, impact. You know, that if they were sitting here today, they would say they felt.
With regard to the second part of the question, Inventive, the parent company to PharmaNet i3, is very focused on this what we call convergence between the development trials, the phase 3 trials, and the commercialization aspects of getting drugs listed on formularies. So there's a big effort in our organization to try to bring those decision makers together in a very proactive manner early on, so that development programs are designed to help with some of the questions that you're asking about. How do you position well for formularies? And it's tied into observational trials. It's tied into a lot of real-world clinical trials that require a certain expertise different than running phase 2 and 3 trials. So that's kind of our approach to what you're asking.
To raise a quick sort of policy point, one of the questions is around the potential for innovation beyond regulation. So in the same way that contracts have the potential to either stifle or unleash innovation possibilities, so too do regulations. And one of the things that the association has called for on the advocacy side is the notion of a chief innovation officer within the FDA. So we've joined our colleagues at BIO, at our colleague association, in calling for that chief innovation officer, because one of the things that I think we see is that while the agency in the US is in many ways very much receptive to new ideas, one of the things it lacks is a sort of structure and a series of mechanisms to, in some ways, match up. Right now there is an accelerated approval pathway. What there's really not is an accelerated development pathway. And we think there's a need for that within the agency. So this is partly going to be addressed, we hope, within regulation as well.